When The War of the Worlds hit theaters in 1953, it didn't just scare audiences, it completely rewired how Hollywood imagined alien invasions. Directed by Byron Haskin and produced by George Powell, this Technicolor sci-fi epic became one of the most influential science fiction movies ever made. But behind the flying war machines, melting cities, and apocalyptic imagery, there are dozens of strange, risky, and sometimes downright shocking secrets that most fans never hear about. So today, let's uncover 20 hidden facts about The War of the Worlds, 1953, that Hollywood history books barely talk about. 1. The film was radically different from the original novel. H.G. Wells' original 1898 novel took place in Victorian England, but the movie boldly moved the invasion to 1950s America. This wasn't just a creative choice, it was a Cold War decision. The filmmakers wanted the story to feel immediate and terrifying for American audiences who were already living under the constant fear of nuclear war. California stood in for modern civilization itself, making the Martian invasion feel like it could happen tomorrow, not in some distant past. 2. The Martians were designed to look nothing like humans. Unlike many sci-fi films of the time that use humanoid aliens in costumes, The War of the Worlds went all in on the alien look. The Martians appear mostly as clawed hands, single eyes, and snake-like appendages. This was done on purpose to make them feel truly inhuman. The filmmakers believed that the scarier choice was letting the audience imagine most of the creature rather than fully revealing it. 3. The war machines didn't have legs on purpose. In the original novel, the Martian war machines walked on giant tripod legs. The film completely abandoned that idea and replaced them with hovering, cobra-shaped ships. The reason was practical and visual. Special effects teams knew moving tripod legs convincingly would look clunky and fake. Floating machines, on the other hand, felt smoother, more advanced, and more unstoppable, especially with glowing beams and sound effects. 4. Those iconic war machines were actually copper models. The famous Martian ships weren't CGI. Obviously, they were detailed miniature models made mostly from copper tubing and metal parts. They were suspended on wires and filmed against carefully painted backgrounds. Lighting played a huge role, giving the ships that eerie green glow that made them look alive and menacing. 5. The movie used sound as a weapon against the audience. That terrifying ray gun sound, the rising scream before destruction, was completely new for 1953. Sound designers layered electronic tones, distorted instruments, and experimental audio effects. At the time, audiences had never heard anything like it. People reportedly jumped in their seats just from a noise alone, even before anything was destroyed on screen. 6. Gene Barry wasn't the first choice for the lead role. Gene Barry, who played scientist Dr. Clayton Forrester, became iconic in the role, but he wasn't the studio's first choice. Several bigger stars turned the part down because they didn't believe science fiction movies could be serious or successful. Barry took the risk, and it ended up defining his career. 7. The film had strong religious themes, and that was controversial. Unlike many sci-fi films of the era, The War of the Worlds openly embraced religion as part of the story. Churches, prayers, and biblical imagery play a major role, especially near the film's climax. Some critics at the time felt this didn't belong in science fiction. Others believed it added emotional weight. Either way, it made the movie stand out in a genre that usually focused only on science. 8. The military equipment was real U.S. Army hardware. The tanks, planes, and soldiers you see weren't studio props. They were real U.S. military equipment. The Pentagon cooperated with the production, seeing the movie as a way to showcase American strength during the Cold War. Ironically, the film shows that even all this power is completely useless against the Martians. 9. The Martian death ray inspired generations of sci-fi weapons. The heat ray that disintegrates people and melts buildings became one of the most copied sci-fi weapons ever. You can see its influence in everything from Star Wars to Independence Day. That slow build-up, the blinding flash, and instant destruction all started right here. 10. The film's destruction scenes shocked 1950s audiences. Seeing entire cities reduced to rubble was extremely rare in the early 1950s. Remember, World War II was still fresh in people's minds. The burning cities and panicked crowds felt disturbingly real, and some viewers reportedly walked out of theaters overwhelmed by the imagery. 11. The movie won an Oscar for special effects. The War of the Worlds won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, beating out several big-budget competitors. This was a huge deal at the time, proving that science fiction could compete with prestige films in technical achievement. 12. The color palette was carefully chosen for emotional impact. The movie uses bold Technicolor reds, greens, and blues in a very deliberate way. Green often represents the Martians, red signals danger and destruction, and blue is used during moments of calm or reflection. This visual language helped guide the audience's emotions without them even realizing it. 13. The film's ending was changed from the novel. In the original story, the Martians die because Earth's bacteria are stronger than they are. While the movie keeps this idea, it also adds a strong religious interpretation. The narration suggests divine intervention, which caused debates among fans for decades about whether science or faith actually save humanity. 14. Orson Welles' radio broadcast still haunted the film. Even though Orson Welles had nothing to do with the movie, his infamous 1938 radio broadcast of the War of the Worlds loomed over the production. The filmmakers knew audiences already associated the story with panic and realism, so they leaned into that fear instead of trying to soften it. 15. The film was shot during peak Cold War anxiety. This movie came out during a time when Americans were practicing nuclear bomb drills and building fallout shelters. The Martians became a metaphor for unstoppable foreign threats, making the movie feel less like fantasy and more like a nightmare reflection of real-world fears. 16. The special effects team invented new techniques on the fly. Many effects used in the movie had never been attempted before. Matte paintings, miniatures, and optical compositing were pushed to their limits. Mistakes were common, but innovation came from trial and error, and it changed how sci-fi films were made forever. 17. The film influenced Steven Spielberg's 2005 remake. Steven Spielberg has openly said the 1953 version deeply influenced his childhood and his 2005 adaptation. You can see direct visual callbacks, especially in the way destruction is shown from a human perspective rather than a heroic one. 18. Some theaters used extra sound effects to scare viewers. In a few early screenings, theaters experimented with boosting sound levels during attack scenes. The goal was to physically overwhelm the audience, making the invasion feel unavoidable. It worked, maybe too well. 19. The film helped legitimize science fiction in Hollywood. Before this movie, sci-fi was often dismissed as cheap or childish. The War of the Worlds proved that the genre could be intelligent, emotional, and visually stunning, paving the way for serious sci-fi films decades later. 20. Its legacy is bigger than most people realize. Even today, nearly every alien invasion movie owes something to the War of the Worlds, 1953. From flying machines to unstoppable enemies to humanity's fragile place in the universe, this film quietly shaped the DNA of modern science fiction. More than 70 years later, The War of the Worlds still feels powerful, unsettling, and surprisingly modern. It wasn't just a movie, it was a warning, a metaphor, and a technical milestone that changed cinema forever. And the scariest part? It reminds us that sometimes the greatest threats don't come from space, but from our own fears.